Well, Cheryl, elections have consequences, and so do election calendars. Today is a key date when all provisional ballots are supposed to be counted. Next week, Tuesday's election is scheduled to become official.
In 1962, I think.
Radar Bjornard's first election was during the Cold War. He was among the hundreds of thousands of Georgians who went to the polls Tuesday, but because the 100-year-old retired theologian forgot his ID, he had to cast a provisional ballot.
And then they kicked me out.
Compelling him to make the Friday drive to the DeKalb election office to get his provisional ballot verified.
But he wanted to make sure his vote was counted, and we wanted to make sure it was counted as well.
In a governor's election pitting the state's chief election officer against a voter registration activist, the last-minute tangle over getting votes counted was perhaps predictable. In Gwinnett County, where technical glitches yielded long lines of voters Tuesday, the county is staying open late to take provisional voters. But most counties are already done verifying the nearly 22,000 provisional votes cast. By Tuesday, the 159 counties will certify the results. The state elections board is due to certify them Wednesday.
And then today we talked with voters who got mysterious phone calls this morning telling them that there was a problem with their vote and they had to go to the election office to make sure that the vote was cast. And when they showed up in DeKalb County, which is where we talked to them, DeKalb officials told them there was no problem, nor was there any reason to make the trip to the office today as the flowers of election drama continue to bloom, Jeff.
Doug, about 30 minutes ago, and I'm going to name drop here, I was talking with Chuck Todd of NBC's Meet the Press, and he believes that this tangled web is such that those who voted for Stacey Abrams may never accept Ryan Kemp as governor.
Well, and you know what's funny is that it's going to, the drama will continue into next year, not about this election necessarily as much, but about the way the votes are gathered, because they're going to go through this whole business of changing out the election system and changing the computer ballots that were bought in 2002, and everybody's going to remember this election while they're doing that.
Doug, you've been covering politics here for a very, very long time. Do you think when these changes comes in terms of how people vote here, that we will not be revisiting what we have over the last 4 days? And I'm saying that 4 years from now.
There's a lot of drama after many elections. I was looking at file tape of when Shirley Franklin got elected in 2002 with paper ballots, and there was this huge drama that went on for a whole week and recounts and, you know, people griping about, you know, the ballots not being cast right. That got forgotten I'd forgotten about it when I saw the file tape. So it's possible that we'll be able to move past it.
Yeah, you're right. There always has been an adventure with mayoral races as well around here. I mean, it's almost as much a part of the landscape around here as kudzu, or so it would seem.